Hey everyone, this is Wobbly Wallaby. Today I'm going to show you the Whitesmith build with the highest DPS potential in Ragnarok M Classic. I have experimented quite a bit, and this is the build that is capable of taking down MVPs and carrying instances. I'm using my China beta account, and I'll be translating some of the gear and skills throughout the video. Some of it does differ from Ragnarok Mobile, so I couldn't use these same images. So, which is the best build for Whitesmith? It is the Mammonite build. Early game, people lack good gear, cards, and contribution, so it's best to rely on skills with insane damage modifiers. And that is why Mammonite is so powerful, since it has so many insane damage modifiers in the game. Mammonite does 1530% damage, which can also be converted to different elements to do double damage. You also have Aesir Monument support, but that adds 5%, which is really low, so that makes it less reliant on contribution. It will cost you 900 Zenny, which is really the catch for using this build, so save it for bosses only. I don't use it against weaker monsters or mobs. Also, the cooldown is important. It has a skill cooldown and skill delay of 1.5 seconds, so you can spam it very often. The more you can spam it, the higher DPS potential there is. Next, the skill Improper Means gives you 600% attack increase in Mammonite, and it costs you 50% more Zenny. This is another enormous modifier. But that's not all, there's even more modifiers with the weapon Bloody Axe. At 90 dex you'll have 30% more Mammonite damage. At Refine 5 you get 10% more, at Refine 10 you get 20% more, and at Refine 15 30% more, and that's pretty insane with some late game potential. Finally, if you get 240 strength, then you get an extra 30%. Now with all these modifiers, you can see why Mammonite is an amazing build for early to mid game, and has the ability to scale late game too. Next, Whitesmith has great buffs for yourself and your party, which further makes it a very strong class. The great thing is people will definitely want you in your party since you're quite useful. First, level 20 Loud Exclamation gives you 20 strength and your party 10 strength. Next, Overthrust gives you 25% physical damage increase and your teammates get 5% physical damage increase. Next, I do use Adrenaline Rush, which can give your teammates more attack speed. Early on, people may lack attack speed, so it's a nice party buff. Next, Weapon Perfection is a fantastic buff. It removes the weapon penalty for you and your teammates, so you don't have to spend Zenny on precision stones. Next, Overthrust Max gives you 50% damage increase at the cost of 5000 Zenny. This is another huge damage boost. It lasts 180 seconds, so it's definitely worth the 5000 Zenny for such a big boost. Next, I'll go over my skills so you can see how I allocated them. Unfortunately, this isn't an ideal build for farming since there aren't enough points to allocate to everything. This is purely for maximizing DPS and helping out a party, but I also left some in farming just in case you're too lazy to switch skills. Also later on there will be a Yimmers which will allow you to switch for free. If you're wondering why some of these levels are higher than yours, it's because there's a job breakthrough. That happens as you increase your job EXP of Whitesmith. First are merchant skills, the most important here being Loud Exclamation and Mammonite. I do invest in cart stuff as I want to use Cart Revolution as an alternate attack, so I don't have to use Zenny for all my attacks. Next is Blacksmith. There's lots of great buffs here. Besides Cart Revolution as an alternate attack, I do love using Hammerfall as an AoE stun. It helps versus mobs that are summoned by bosses. Next here are my Whitesmith skills. Overthrust Max is quite overpowered here, so it's very good. Also Meltdown is nice too, and those are the top priorities here. Next for the manual bar, I have Loud Exclamation, Overthrust, Weapon Perfection, Overthrust Max, Meltdown, and Hammerfall for stun. For auto, I just have Mammonite, and I do switch to Cart Revolution if I'm not hitting a boss for auto. Next are gear recommendations for early to mid game. Cards are harder to get, so I mostly focus on getting great gear. Some of the translations differ a lot, but the primary use is accurate, so that's where I use the one from Ragnarok Mobile. First for offhand, I crafted Rosa Chain, primarily for the 25% ignore defense. You need a ton of ignore defense, I'm trying to get to 100%, so this certainly helps. Next I used the plus 6 Adventure Master Armor for the 6% physical damage increase. You can get this from doing rifts. Next, I used the Ancient Cape for the 15% ignore defense. I did Chaotic Invasion and targeted Alice to get this. I was definitely lucky since I was able to get this with a sweep, and you should definitely try to do this as well. Next, I have the Refined Sticks Adventure Boost for the 2% attack. You can also get this from Rifts. Next, I have 2 Adventure Hero Bracelets for the 2% attack. You can also get this from the Rifts. Next is the Weapon Bloody Axe. This is the one you have to invest in a lot. This is why a lot of the left side stuff are more or less very cheap to get. This is definitely going to carry you, so you have to invest any in it. This one does differ a bit from Ragnarok Mobile, so I won't show it to avoid confusion. The relevant information here is if you have 90 luck, you have 100 attack. If you have 90 dex, you have 30% more Memmonite damage. For Refined 5, 10, and 15, you'll get 10, 20, and 30% more Memmonite damage. And also if you tier it up, at 240 strength you'll also get 30% more Memmonite damage, although hitting 240 strength is really hard right now, so hopefully you'll get that in the future. For card, I am using 2 rocker cards. It gives 50 raw attack each, which I think is pretty good early on. I don't have the Minora's cards, otherwise I would use 2 of those. You could also swap in elemental damage in cards as well, but I don't have any of those. I'm just letting you know that even if you don't have any good cards, this build is still very, very strong. Next is Cat Ear Beret, which gives you 5% attack. You can craft this and is relatively inexpensive. Next, Nut on Head gives you 5% ignore defense. This is also craftable and quite inexpensive. Next is Devil Wing, which gives you 5% physical damage. This one's definitely more expensive, but it's one of the best back items for free-to-play players. Next, I didn't have any good ones for Mouth or Tail, as I didn't have any good ones to craft, so you can definitely use anything. I feel like the other stuff is definitely higher priority. The Mouth and Tail I have at the moment are kinda garbage, so I didn't want to confuse people to think it's actually good. Next, here are my stats. I invest enough in the dex to have 90 for the weapon. I also invest enough luck to have 90 for the weapon bonus too. Then I put the rest into strength. Next, with self buffs and food, I have 2657 attack. A 36% damage increase, 81% physical damage increase percentage, 45% ignore defense. Next, for Adventure Handbook, I'm at Adventure Class F. This is very important to get adventure skills for seeing MVPs. You should definitely try to level up your Adventure Handbook to 10 as soon as possible. Next, you can see I have 32 attack, which is definitely way lower than my Ragnarok Mobile account, but it's still pretty satisfying to have some. Next, for food, I eat anti-death food. For example, this one lets me cheat death. Currently at my taste level, you can stack 3, but you can stack up to 6 later on. Cooking is definitely a high priority in the game. Make sure you get your cooking book and level it up so you can get some vital buffs. Besides cooking food, eating strength B meals are also great for more damage. Next, for Acer Monument, just invest in any attack nodes for now. There are a bunch of Memmonite ones, but it costs a ton of contributions, so you'll likely not have it right now, but that's something to invest in the future. Next, for pet, I use the old bean for the anti-fatal. It's nice to have a pet that brings you back to life, so definitely try to get that one as soon as possible. Next, I've really enjoyed this build. It feels really strong. I like that it can take down MVPs quite well. In this example, I used the Earth Converter in order to deal double damage to Goblin Leader, so it has a huge advantage over other classes that are stuck to a certain element. Normally I cast all the buffs on my manual bar, then attack. Now considering I'm just soloing it, the damage is quite good. If you're in a party, you'd be able to do even better. Also, if you had a tank, then I'll take the damage away from you and you'll stop flinching so you can deal more damage. This build has helped me clear a lot of the early instances like Endless Tower and Oracle Dungeon too, so it's been great making some progress here. Previously with the card attack builds or the card revolution builds, I just felt it was too slow and the damage modifiers were too low. If you want to melt bosses, then give Memmonite build a try, it will not disappoint. I feel like this is the most overpowered DPS build in the game at the moment. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe. Here's a video that I'd recommend, and if you want more Ragnarok M Classic videos, check out this playlist over here.